Hi, I'm Bobby Peer with TAPinto, and I'm here today with Jeralyn Lawrence of Lawrence Law. Hi, Jeralyn.
Hi, Bobby. Good to see you as
I
always.
love talking with you, and we're getting ready for October, and that is Domestic Violence Month.
Right.
And I'd love to get your perspective as a family lawyer
Right.
and find out more about what people can look for, what are the resources, and we'll just start a conversation from there. So, can you explain why this month in particular is so important?
Well, this month, coming up in October, really is just a call to action and really a call to awareness about domestic violence. And while I am a divorce lawyer and a family lawyer and spend a lot of time in my working day working with clients who are surviving domestic violence, I also myself am a survivor of
Oh,
domestic violence. So I come to this issue a little bit differently, having lived through it. And I think the most important thing for people to know is anybody can be a victim of domestic violence. Anybody can survive domestic violence. It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, where you live, if you're affluent, if you're poor. It knows no bounds, domestic
wow.
violence, and anybody can find themselves in the midst of a very abusive relationship. And I think that as more and more people are talking about it, um, you're hearing more and more people being candid about their past and their history and some problems that they had in relationships that really they were a victim of abuse.
Wow. And that's not something you can just bury.
No.
You need to get through it. So, what are some protections that are available for people that are involved in a domestic violent relationship?
New Jersey has a lot of protections. New Jersey is extremely progressive in protecting victims of domestic violence and also weeding out or trying to weed out people that abuse the system and say they're victims of domestic
Okay.
violence and are not. So it's a two-prong approach, really. And people that abuse the statute, the prevention of domestic violence statute, because the goal is to prevent it, really trivializes the true plight of true victims of domestic violence. So the court has a really hard balancing act, but we have domestic violence laws where at any time, any day, 24/7, 365, if you are a victim of domestic violence, you either can go to your local police station or you immediately call 911, or you can also go to your county courthouse so long as they're open. Your local county courthouse is open 8:30 to 4:30. If the violence happens on the weekend or before 8:30 in the morning or after 4:30, it's either calling 911 or you're going to go to your municipal court, your police station, and they will get you on the phone with a municipal court judge. And the protections are very broad. You can get exclusive possession of your home where the alleged abuser is removed from the home. You can get custody and parenting time where the alleged abuser does not have any access to the children.
Okay.
You can get temporary financial support. And our law says that you're supposed to have a final hearing within 10 days of getting that temporary order. Courts strive to have that hearing within 10 days. Oftentimes, it can be a little longer than 10 days. But after a trial, and the standard is a preponderance of the evidence, so it's more likely than not the abuse occurred, you can get a final restraining order.
Okay.
And if you receive a final restraining order in New Jersey, there's no sunset clause. They stay in effect forever unless somebody affirmatively moves to dissolve the restraining order. But it's very hard to dissolve. There's no sunset clause. So New Jersey takes domestic violence very seriously, notwithstanding the recent example that we saw out in Hunterdon County with the veterinarian that was murdered in cold blood. I mean, that was tragic to
Mm-hmm.
hear that she actually took time to go to the police department, tried to get help, called and left the phone number, and no one helped her, that is just a colossal failure. I'm sure that's why the chief was suspended. Some other officers were suspended because they didn't handle that the right way. Um, I want to believe that's an aberrational case because New Jersey does take it very seriously.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
So once a restraining order is placed, the police have to respond immediately. It's
correct. If you violate either a temporary restraining order or a final, if you are found to have violated either one, it's a mandatory jail term. It's a
okay.
contempt. It's a mandatory jail that there's not even discretion for a court to figure out why you violated it. If
Mm-hmm.
there's two violations, it's a mandatory jail term.
Wow. So obviously, love or a long-term relationship that you don't want to believe is violent. What are some warning signs that, like, maybe family and friends may see that they should act on, if that's
Yeah,
appropriate?
well, yeah, for sure. Oftentimes the relationship starts out as, of course, very loving. I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason you got involved in this relationship. And your partner is very attentive, and that's nice. But there's times where it crosses the line. If you are being isolated, if a person wants to cut you off from all your family and friends, if you find yourself walking on eggshells, if anything that you say is a perceived slight coming out of your mouth and there's an overreaction on the other side, if you notice that your friend is just not acting themselves,
Mm-hmm.
they're withdrawn, they don't go out as much because they face repercussions when they get home. That's a slippery slope. So anytime you are isolated or controlled, financial abuse as well, you're given a very tight
Right.
leash as to what you can spend, and that is being monitored. I mean, anytime, that somebody is being controlled, walk on eggshells, isolated, I think those are the the big red flags. But there's a book I wanted to call out. It's by
Okay,
Susan
good.
Brewster, and
Okay.
it's called "To Be an Anchor in the Storm: A Guide for Families and Friends of Abused Women." And let me just say this too: we talk a lot about women being victims of domestic violence. Men are victims as
I
well. So I don't. This cuts across any,
Right. No,
black,
I
white,
yep.
red, brown, men, women. Men can be victims as well. So that book talks about of abused women, but it can be abused men. But it's really to be an anchor in the storm. It's a
Yeah.
great book. There's also a
Okay.
book called Crazy Time by Abigail Trafford that I think is a wonderful read.
Good.
Talks about crazy time, and it's so relatable as to what
So
people are.
does that mean a certain time of the day or certain time of a period or just in general?
Just in general,
Just in
just the
general.
book is talking about just this crazy time in your life,
Yeah.
and normalizing what you're feeling, trying to give you guidance that you're not alone, help you process your feelings. But there are plenty of resources out there.
Okay.
Somerset County has a lot of great resources. I think you're going to post them at the end
Yes,
of our video.
absolutely.
But there's Safe and Sound Somerset, there's Women's Law
Okay.
.org. Like I said, your local police departments have information. Every 21 county courthouses have information. Um, there's 24-hour hotlines, domestic violence hotlines. So there's help out there. Many people, Bobby, unfortunately, and some of them are probably right, they feel like a piece of paper is not going to protect them. And that's the scary part of that, because those women or men likely are not going to be saved by a piece of paper, by a
Yeah.
restraining order. um, and some of them don't even come and try to get one, and they just suffer in silence at home. But we can't stop talking about it, and we can't
Right.
stop.
So talking about it helps these women or men. Because that, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, is when you're going through something, there is a denial period, and there's no definition of what that period's going to be. But during that time, as we called it, I mean, there's chaos.
Chaos, and just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And, you're just living in a heightened state of anxiety, and just not stable and not secure and not balanced and not peace.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're living like that, your body's feeling like that. Your
Right.
whole life is impacted by that.
I mean, there's so much to get through it. I mean, psychologically, financial, if there's children involved, that's where the resources need to be out there so people will know where to go. Because if, say, they can't afford to be on their own to protect their own children, what do you do?
Well, if there's resources within the family, the court can hear that and allocate out resources, order interim alimony, spousal support, child support, contribution to health insurance, contributing to daycare, really trying to maintain the status quo in those expenses. I mean, the court always is going to put and take a priority in making sure that kids are safe as well.
Right.
So they will deal with custody and parenting time. If there needs to be an evaluation, if the abuse happens in front of the children, it's almost an automatic that the court will order what's called a risk assessment to see if the parent that's committing the abuse is a risk of harm to the child.
Okay.
So at least there's that evaluation. If there's substance abuse, oftentimes domestic violence is happening on the weekends. Football Sundays, believe it or not, is big. Saturdays are big. Statistically speaking, the New Jersey State Police tracks all of these phone calls. But there are resources available to help families not only try to protect themselves, but protect their children. And they can order alcohol evaluations, drug evaluations, and put processes and evaluations in place to make sure that the kids are safe before they have parenting time. And, depending on the situation, there can always be supervised parenting time as the evaluations are pending, but that's going to depend on the nature of the of the act.
It sounds like there's multiple steps that you need to follow, and at the end of the day, the court will help you legally get through the process and be protected.
That's the goal. I mean, the goal is one, is protection, and to allow the survivor to just be left alone. And the statute even talks about that. That's your right. Your right is to just be left. You want to be left alone, your right is to do that. But if you've had, there's no but. That's a period. However, if you have children, there's still going to be continuing contact. But there's a way to do that in a peaceful way. There are plenty of parenting time apps out there. Our Family Wizard actually monitors the tone within which people are communicating to each other. If someone's being rude, mean, aggressive, our Family Wizard will not let that message go through. They have what's called a tone meter, and it will red flag it until you rewrite that message in a way that's acceptable to go through. So while you can still co-parent and hopefully not counter-parent, you can still co-parent, but you're going to do so in written fashion, in a monitored way, so that if there are any violations, the judge is going to want to know that immediately.
Yeah. So, and we talked about a lot. The fact is, we need to keep talking. We need to get the resources out there. Is there any end message that you would like my readers to hear from you?
There is always light at the end of the tunnel. And it is always, I believe in that saying, it is always darkest right before dawn. And even in those dark moments, and you can't see that glimmer of hope or that light at the end of the tunnel, it's there. You may have to rely on family or friends or a shelter or domestic violence hotline or our local resources, but take that first step. Nobody has to live in fear. You just don't have to.
No. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I love our conversations.
Well, I'm always happy to have them. It's always a pleasure and a joy to be with you, Bobby.
Thank you.
You're welcome.